Well, they talk in Melbourne and across Australia about the race that stops the nation, but there's another event that is incredibly well regarded in the horse community, and it is the Garryowen. It's an equestrian turnout that is a very prestigious event that is now in, I believe, its 87th year. Today, on celebrating the show online, we head to the Royal Melbourne Show on the day that we should be conducting the Garryowen Equestrian Turnout competition with a young lady who, at the age of only 20 in 2011, took out the Garryowen Equestrian Turnout on only her second attempt. Stephanie Barrington, thanks for joining us from lockdown today.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Now, we're just going to go right back to basics. For boys and girls that are watching us on social media right now and they've never heard of the Garryowen, can you tell us sort of the background of the Garryowen and why it's such a prestigious competition?
I think it's the epitome of showing horses in Australia, to be honest. You know, we ride in honour of Violet Murrell, who died, saving her horse in a tragic fire in which they both lost their lives. And I think despite everything else, that's really why we do it. It's the love of our horses and getting out there and performing that really keeps us going. I think the Garryowen is so important because of that, and it's become a tradition. It's so well known throughout the country. I think it's the only competition in Australia which has, you know, so many judges judging every little different thing, which makes it so important and so tricky to win.
Well, it's been run since 1934, and there are some very well regarded female riders who have taken out the Garryowen in the past. For a long time, it's been recognised as one of the most celebrated and highly anticipated horse events on the calendar, as you said. And there's something quite unique about it. There's a level of meticulous preparation that is required for this competition. You're not just judged on your horse conformation and your manners and paces, you're judged on saddlery, the costume, riding ability, general appearance. What are some of the really unique things you have to do to get ready for the Garryowen in the months leading up?
Oh my goodness, I think I was getting ready since I was 5 years old. I mean, I competed in many turnouts when I was growing up as a younger kid, and I didn't win any of them. So, you know, for me to actually, you know, turn up on the day and get it all right and have it all come together, I think it's a little bit like conducting an orchestra. You know, you mentioned it was my second attempt, and in my first attempt, I had this beautiful horse that I had just purchased LA, and he was a champion in his own right. And when you marry the success of my riding career as I was growing up with, you know, that champion thoroughbred, you think, oh, this is great. You know, that's what the Garryowen's about. You've got to have a beautiful horse, be able to produce it really well, ride it, and then turn up on the day and produce the perfect workout. So I thought, oh, I've got this great horse. I'll go and do that, which we did, and I was very lucky. I borrowed all of my gear. I borrowed the saddle. I even borrowed the bridle. I borrowed someone else's boots and pants, and in we went, and it was a great experience. I was only 18 years old, so it was the first year I was old enough to compete, and it was my dream. And we went in and we competed. We did a beautiful workout, and I think we were actually equal up in like the first or second placing with our riding ability and manners and paces and confirmation. But it was the gear that basically let me down. How meticulous you have to be with, you know, making sure that every bit of leather is on the middle hole, and your bits in the horse's mouth are just so shiny you can see your reflection. And also learning how to polish the boots. If you've ever Googled how to really get that mirror shine in your boots, there's 101 different ways, let me tell you, and everyone has different advice, and, you know, it's all kind of like sidled away in everyone's secret squirrel little books on how to do it better, or how to get your boots on without having the wrong number of buttons showing just above the boots, and where the spurs are exactly supposed to sit. One of the other ones is having a penny and a hanky in your pocket. And I've lost a point before because my stock pin has to go through the stock, but also has to pick up the shirt and then come back through, and the judges actually get you off the horse, and they assess your pants, and they assess your jacket and how well it's fitted, and, you know, they'll even check that pin is through the stock and also through the shirt, because, you know, sometimes 1 point can mean the difference between winning and losing the entire competition. So when it's coming down to such meticulous, you know, pieces of detail. It's really, really important. I think we could basically write a book. My mum takes notes after every year now. We had typed up a process to get me dressed, and at which stage, I put the shirt on so that then I put my makeup on so that no makeup would get on the shirt when I was putting everything on, and then I would have a hairdresser come in and do the hair part, and then someone else would put in my cufflinks, and then there was someone else there to pull the boots on. So it really was a team effort. It was huge for my family. I think when I won, there was about 18 to 20 people there helping me get dressed. Even people from uni. I went to Monash Uni, and people that had no idea about horses but could see how important this event was to me, and how much I really wanted to win it. I took a year off because I just still didn't have the right gear for the second year, and then came back in 2011, and that was the year I vowed that I wouldn't go back in until I had everything perfect, and we did it.
So there's months and months of preparation that goes in, and you mentioned that it is down to individual points here because they're extraordinary horses and wonderfully talented riders, and the preparation that goes in is not something you can whip together in a matter of weeks. But it's also the lead up in terms of the day itself. I think I read once that you were up at 1 a.m. getting ready for the competition that day. What is involved in getting out to the main arena?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I like to give myself ample time. I think I'm well known for being the first up on most show days because I'm very meticulous with my time, and I think riding horses, time management is one of the skills that you definitely learn. So hopping up, making sure LA has ample feed and water, and then exercising him, showing him the main arena. I remember on that particular day it was thunderstorming. It was basically catastrophic downpour. I remember the night before they even had to sort of adjust classes and squish everything onto the main arena because there was just torrential rain and scary things that were happening. So for us going out, for this one event that we'd prepared for so many months, to then wake up on that morning and have rain and thunder, and then try and ride in all our amazing gear that we don't normally ride in, so it's a unique experience, was really, really challenging. So I showed him the arena, gave him enough exercise that he wasn't going to be sort of shocked by potentially a seagull or, someone in the crowd or the Ferris wheel. So he was very well familiarised with that. We had to give him a bath, and then one of my good friends plaited his mane for me. Whilst I've been riding and competing at Royal Shows since I was about 6 years old, I'm pretty famous for not being able to plait. So that's a bit of insight about me. So one of my girlfriends plaited him up, and then it's, down to the last sort of minute, we put the bits onto the bridle. We don't normally leave them hanging overnight because we don't want the leather to stretch. And then even getting ready, I think I started getting dressed at 5 or 6 a.m. It took 5 hours to get me fully dressed into the gear in the way, that we were happy with. My mum even learned how to tie the stock. It's not something that she really knew how to do before, but we did hours and hours of practicing at home where she would practice different mixes of starch, and then some people would say, put them in the freezer, don't put them in the freezer, iron them, then put them in glad wrap, and then do all these things. So we tried different ways of, making sure that the stocks were starched just enough that you would get the right crisp lines, but not too much that you couldn't get the stock pin through. And then also having to then transport them from home where we had kind of perfected, the process, to then into the showgrounds and then keep them clean for the duration of the show prior to actually putting them on. So we had a couple of different sets of stocks and shirts and pants just in case, I happen to spill coffee on myself or touch the side of the walls or, anything, I suppose, as they say, it can happen on the day.
And stables are not the cleanest places in the world, so getting ready around that is not the easiest thing to do.
Oh, definitely not. But Mum had everything labelled, like every single drawer. She had carpet. She would come in basically and scrub the locker down beforehand just to make sure that we didn't leave anything to chance, because, as we said, we had been preparing for months and months. So for something to go wrong like that, just wasn't acceptable.
And I mean, it's such an important event that I believe the Mayor of Melbourne attends and watches every minute of the judging. And the judging goes for quite some time. There's a large number of competitors. As you mentioned before, it's a very meticulous standard of competition. There are many things to judge and many judges to judge it. How long does it take from the moment you enter the arena?
Oh gosh, well I can remember being a little girl and actually at the old Melbourne Showgrounds, seeing lines and lines of questions. I felt like it was 1,000 ladies, but it was probably, 100, 150. Nowadays they do it via a draw system, so they have different heats, going out at different times. I think the showgrounds have evolved slightly. There's not as much space as there used to be years ago to fit that many horses on. And also it's generally quite a cold day. So for the ones that are sort of lining up first versus the ones that are lining up at the end, I think it's a really great system that we now have different heats. But I think it goes for about 3 hours before they announce the winners. After everyone gets their turn to come in about a group of 5 or 6, and then you walk your horse up and you hop off and you present to, the costume judge while your saddlery is being looked over by the saddlery judge. And then I think one of the unique things about this event is that you hop back on, and because you wanted to stay so clean, you actually haven't had that much time to warm your horse up. You only get, a couple of seconds, or well, it feels like seconds, it's probably minutes, to warm your horse up before you go in and present to the other judges and do your workout. So I think that's quite unique. And the other thing to mention is that, as I said before, we have to make sure that all of our leather, all of our, say, girth points that keep the saddle on are in the middle hole. So you're sort of guessing in the lead up. You can guess how fat your horse is going to be on the day, but he's been at the showgrounds for a couple of days and perhaps had some stress and not really eaten. So he might have lost a couple of centimetres on his belly. So you've got to have a couple of different girths ready to go in case on the day he's lost weight or he might have put weight on, and then you get out there and you're doing your warm-up and you think, oh, it's a bit loose. So I think many a rider has had those moments where you start warming up and you think, oh goodness, this is different gear to what I'm used to. My horse isn't warmed up. I'm about to go in the scariest, most stressful environment for us as riders, and try and do the best workout of your life. So, it's really just a plethora of emotion, like a wave. And I think it just happens so fast, but it's such a great experience to be out there and be a part of such a unique event.
Speaking of the gear, I understand the saddle that you competed on for your win in 2011 had actually won a couple of times prior.
Yeah, it has. I think it was its 6th win now. It's quite an old saddle, I believe. Vicky Ward, who is now Vicky Laurie, who's won the event multiple times, started out with the saddle. And then I purchased it from Pam Ahern, who had also won the event in the saddle. And then I obviously bought it and won in it as well. So to be part of something that's so old and so part of the tradition, and it just goes to show the quality of the leather. A quality product and a quality saddle can have that much history, and it just makes you feel special riding in it. I even remember I have ridden in it in 2 Garryowens since then, and I got reserve champion hack on Orlando in the open class, not just the turnout, riding in that saddle, and I think that's something pretty special.
Now tell me, do you intend to compete again in the Garryowen in 2021? And if so, what does the preparation look like when you're stuck in lockdown at the moment?
Yes, well, I competed last year and got second on my horse, Rebelle, which was really exciting. She was only a baby. It was her second Royal Show last year, and she was such a good girl. I couldn't have been happier with our performance. We basically left the showgrounds, and again, I had actually borrowed a saddle for her because she was a little bit of a different shape, so you've got to make sure everything fits just perfectly. So after the show last year, we went away and we got a new saddle measured for her and purchased a new saddle. So our preparations actually for the 2021 show have been started since October last year as we were getting ready for this show. So I think my whole family was a little bit heartbroken that the show was called off this year, but it's ISO, and I think everyone's going through it and going through a hard time. At the moment, I'm in St Kilda in a 2-bedroom apartment. I've barely got any photos to show you or ribbons. I've got a collection here that I keep with me now that I live in the city and not down at our family farm. So I'm hoping to be able to get out and ride soon, as soon as they change the restrictions here in Melbourne.
Well, I was about to ask you about some of your favourite memories growing up competing outside of the Garryowen. Do you want to show us some of those photos and walk us a bit down memory lane with you?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I've got my first ever Barristock Horse of the Year win. This is Glendoman Gizmo, so quite a famous little character who was very famous in horse deals for a very long time. What else have we got? We've got a little foal from when we used to breed down at Barrington Park. She was out of a Marinda mare, little filly. What else have we got? Oh, there's too many. I had lots of little white ponies. That's actually at the old showgrounds there on Amaranda Sara at the stud show in summertime. This one actually is at the old showgrounds. My little Shetland Oriana, my girlfriend Courtney Christie. So I've grown riding with her, and I think that's one of the best things about showing horses is the friends that I've made all over the country. Even in lockdown, my best of friends are up in Queensland, in Adelaide, in Sydney, and I just feel so lucky that, showing horses has enabled me to make these friends, and they're lifelong friends. They're not just, school friends that you're forced into a classroom with because you're the same age and live in the same suburb. And I think it's that shared passion that, drives the unique connection.
Now, when you were growing up, I'm sure you watched a Garryowen and looked up at one of the winners and thought, I'd love to be that person one day. Inevitably or invariably, there are going to be young lady riders and perhaps young boys too that really look up to you and think, really love to achieve what Stephanie's achieved. And perhaps they're competing at Royals, not winning champion yet, but in the lineup nonetheless. What would your advice be in terms of the aspiration to really succeed at a Royal show for those younger riders?
Yeah, well, I think that the main thing is to not give up and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, because let me tell you, if you work hard enough, you most certainly can. Just get up that little bit earlier, ride for those extra 10 minutes. I think one of the biggest things is that, people say just by turning up, you've done better than someone else. So just keep at it. There were many a time where I, came back so disappointed in my performance or how I had done, but I think that built me into being the rider that I am today. All of those experiences of not winning makes you into a better rider, and then you appreciate it all that more when you actually succeed.
Now, when you're heading around the showground and you don't have a competition day and you've got a few hours to yourself, how do you spend at the Royal Melbourne Show?
Doing the food hall, the Woolworths wine tasting.
Probably well deserved too, I'd say, after those early morning start. Well, Stephanie Barrington, what a pleasure it has been to have you on the program here today. On behalf of the Royal Agricultural Society of Victoria, thank you for joining us on Celebrating the Show online, and we can't wait to see you ride in 2021.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.